Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Film Talk. My name is Braunlich, and this show covers everything from movies to TV shows and editorials. Today, we will take a look at the latest MCU movie that seems to have people mixed. We will cover Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Here is my reaction for the trailer. All right, let us assemble and let's watch the trailer for Ant-Man.
You're an interesting man, Scott Lang.
You are a meme that everybody loves.
You're an Avenger.
The most unlikely Avenger.
You have a daughter. But you've lost a lot of time, like me. We can help each other with that.
I'll make you an offer you can't refuse.
Who are you? I'm the man who can give you the one thing you want.
There he is.
That? Time.
That's beautiful.
Rewrite existence
Oh, I love that.
and shatter timelines.
So maybe we could see like a parallel Scott Lang with like the older uniform.
I just lost so much. He can give us a second chance.
February 17th.
Let me make this easy for you.
Okay.
You will bring me what I need. Or everything you call a life will end.
That's a big army.
This is all my fault.
That is a pretty cool visual right there.
We had a deal.
I mean, he seemed pretty trustworthy at first. Wait, is that MODOK?
You thought you could win.
I don't have to win. We both just have to lose.
I just got chills on my arms from that.
I'm sorry, Cassie.
So, it looks pretty intense. I mean, it almost looks like it's in the same like editing format as Infinity War does, where it's like shows pretty brief glimpses of Kang, which I think is good because I don't know, I'm just really have high expectations for this villain. And compared to like, you know, well, I guess now Thor joins Ant-Man and the Guardians of the Galaxy in terms of like being more leaning more towards comedy. And yeah, I think this could be an interesting one. Overall, I think it could do well box office wise. And I like the cast they have here. It did look like they had MODOK in here. I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to check again because they only showed him for like literally 2 seconds. But I think this looks like it could be a lot of fun. And when Scott said, we both just have to lose, that just made me think, oh my goodness, something bad is like really gonna happen. So we'll just have to wait and find out. And I will give you my overall thoughts. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, is directed by Peyton Reed and stars Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, and Jonathan Majors, as this is the third Ant-Man movie and the start to Phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In this movie, Scott and his daughter Cassie, played by Catherine Newton, join Hank, Janet, and Hope as they explore the quantum realm. In this world, they interact with very bizarre creatures and take part in an adventure that goes beyond what they believed was possible. So before I give you my thoughts on this movie, I think it should be fair to share my thoughts on the previous Ant-Man movies. Personally, I think they're a fun time. They're not on the level of a Captain America or Iron Man or Thor, but it's something to keep us entertained for about 2 hours, and it has some pretty clever tie-ins to the rest of the MCU, and gives us a few good laughs. The first Ant-Man, I think a lot of people can agree, was a surprise, as they made the character interesting and managed to give him a solid movie where we're rooting for him from beginning to end. It was just a guy who wants to give his daughter the best life possible and keeping himself out of trouble. My biggest complaint was I thought the villain was a little forgettable, and I thought the humor outbalanced the serious stuff, like a few other Marvel movies have done. The second movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp, I actually think was better than the first one. Yes, I understand it's probably an unpopular opinion, but I think the story, the introduction of the characters like Ghost, who I thought was pretty well developed, and Jimmy Woo, who we'd later see in the series WandaVision, they were really good. The humor was on point. I thought it tied into the events of Avengers Infinity War well enough despite it being just in one scene. Now, looking at this movie, I noticed how it seems to be more serious. And although I love a good laugh from this cinematic universe, I like when a movie knows when to be serious. There's a recurring theme where every single time there's a serious moment, it's followed immediately by a joke. So after seeing this third Ant-Man movie, how does it hold up to the others? Well, in my opinion, it's not the worst of the MCU, but among the Ant-Man movies, it's most likely the weakest. Let's start off with the best part of the movie. And I think a lot of people who see this movie can agree on this. Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror. I don't think we've had a villain this good since Thanos. And it's not to say the villains that came after were bad, but they really didn't stand out much on the level that Kang did. One of the things I noticed about previous villains prior to Kang is that they seem to be part of a joke, and Kang is no joke. He's a much more serious version, and seeing how Ant-Man was one of the Marvel properties that focuses on mostly comedy, this is a pretty big step. In this movie, Kang is manipulative, willing to do whatever it takes to get what he wants, and he's pretty good at acting calm, but also intimidating at the same time. He proves he can back up his threats, I think could pose a big threat for anybody really. Jonathan Majors was actually in a few things that I think helped start his career, like the TV series Lovecraft County, The Last Black Man in San Francisco, White Boy Rick, and When We Rise. But I think this, and potentially Creed 3, can launch him even further. I personally think he was a great choice to be Marvel's next villain. I also really liked the trio of Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, and Kathryn Newton. Newton does good in portraying a grown-up Cassie who only wants to make her dad proud, and for good reason. Scriptwriter Jeff Loveless said he based the dynamic between father and daughters in the film on other movies, like Father of the Bride and Hook. And I think this is the most developed we see of Scott's character. He was an ex-con, but in this movie, he realizes what it truly means to be a hero and the limits he has to reach. It did feel a little weird seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp taking on a powerful entity like Kang, but it really made the movie interesting, and we were legit rooting for the heroes this whole time. When it came time for the climax, it actually was a ton of fun and was incredibly intense. But we'll talk about the climax later, because that brings up a point I wanted to reach out. Lastly, I think the world building was tremendous. In terms of visuals, this movie was outstanding. I really liked the quantum realm, and I like all the neat designs that inhabit it. It almost reminded me of the Disney movie Strange World in a way. If you have seen that movie, maybe you'll agree with me on this. There were a few characters that made an appearance that got a pretty good reaction from the crowd. Yes, I did see this with a live crowd,
and I liked it.
I also liked the designs of some of the creatures in this world. There's a whole community of creatures that have different designs. One is just a blob, but I love his design and his character was simple but pretty effective. Some of the characters even have unique abilities. One of the coordinators for the visual effects, Paula Gonzalez Abad, helped also create the effects for movies like Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, Transformers The Last Knight, and 2 other Marvel projects, Spider-Man Far From Home, and more recently, Eternals. Unfortunately, there are 2 parts I wasn't too thrilled about, and unfortunately, they're kind of big ones. First, the story. It just felt all over the place, and it felt like at times we were switched to a completely different movie. It also doesn't really seem to focus on what it's trying to be. One part is comedy, the other part is more serious, and I feel like it switches back and forth leading up to the third act. Now, to the movie's credit on 2 different angles, it doesn't waste too much time getting started. But after that, then it kind of starts to get off track. Another thing I think this movie did well is how it tricks us. Yes, you might get some of what you see in the trailer, but it does a pretty good job at keeping most of the big stuff to a minimum. I also felt like the dialogue didn't make sense sometimes. It wasn't the worst writing I've seen, granted the person who wrote this movie also had a hand in writing Rick and Morty, but I felt like it didn't really fit with what the movie was trying to accomplish. In conclusion, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is alright. It has some strong performances, especially from Majors, lovely visuals and world building. I think this could really help set up something interesting in the MCU moving forward. If you're a fan of the Ant-Man films or the MCU, I'm pretty sure this will have split opinions on it. I wasn't a huge fan, but I enjoyed it for what it offered. One more thing to say. Be sure to stay for the end credit scenes. It makes things much more interesting, and the crowd in my theater went nuts. My grade for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania will be a C+. Thank you all for joining this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, this is Will Braunlich, and I will see you at the movies. Save a seat for me. Alright, well, where did I flow? Where did I flow? Where did I flow?
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.